UK-based Zimbabwean is angry over English street names in Zimbabwe. Oh ho away away away. Oh ho away away. Bertha Mukodzani, a Zimbabwean living in the UK, came out of her shell after 20 years in Britain, exposing herself as a passive and subtle ZANU-PF sympathizer and apologist. She infamously claimed Zimbabwe is doing fine even with its collapsed system on her YouTube channel. In some of her videos she is subtly pushing forward the ZANU-PF propaganda, giving us the impression of development in progress, when in fact they are fooling the masses with uncommitted smokescreen token projects, such as the last-minute upgrade of potholed roads and dilapidated buildings in the vicinity of the last SADC meeting venue, near the new Parliament building, at Mount Hampton in Harare. Slowly but surely, bit by bit, with her introverted secret love for public attention, Bertha has been shedding skin and revealing her true colors, showing us where her political ideologies and loyalties lie. Lately, she posted another YouTube video venting her frustrations with English street names, on a private residential estate in the capital city of Zimbabwe, in Harare. The residential complex in question is a middle-class suburb called Little England, located in Westgate Area D. It was funded and built by the Black Zimbabwean diaspora community in England. Let's watch the video.
You know what, I really didn't want to make this video because it's a video I didn't think I would need to make in 2024, but I'm making this video anyway. And I've been sitting on this article for a couple of days now. I've just been sitting on it, reflecting on what I had read, and I had to read it a few times just to make sure that I understand exactly what is being said, that I didn't get anything wrong and so forth. I had to read it a few times just to understand. And most of you would have read the article by now anyway, and I'm sure people have been discussing it as well. But I just thought, you know what, let me come up here and give my 2 cents, because this video is a reaction. It's purely my opinion. And quite frankly, I'm a little bit disappointed. I have to be honest. I'm a little bit disappointed. That's why it took me a while to make this video. I had to process my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, because, as I said, I couldn't believe what I was reading. And obviously you can see it on the screen. I'm talking about the article which says, "Welcome to Little England, a street name split city neighborhood." It's about a neighborhood in Westgate, Area D in Harare. You know, it's got beautiful houses according to this article. Now the fracas or the argument broke out when it came to the naming of the streets in that area, because according to the article, for a while the streets didn't have names. So the community had to come together and decide what names to give to their streets. So when it came to the decision, there was a split among the people. Some wanted English names only, and some preferred Shona and Ndebele, or they suggested that we should also incorporate Shona and Ndebele names as a representation of the culture, you know, our culture as Zimbabweans. So that's why they felt that it was also important to have those names. And according to the article, that suggestion of incorporating Shona and Ndebele names as well was rejected by the majority. It was rejected outright. Now, I don't care what you name your streets. I don't. That's not why I decided to make this video. The reason I'm making this video, or the reason I am bothered by this article or by what happened with this community, is what was said about the Shona names and the Ndebele names. It was the reasoning behind it. It was the thought process. Now I'm going to read some of the statements so that you can understand where I'm coming from with this. And of course, I'm going to give my opinion. I'm going to state exactly why I'm disturbed by this. So this is what was said, and I quote, "Some said if they give the local names or Shona names, it will reduce the value of the suburb. So having a Shona name or a Ndebele name, according to this person, reduces the value of that place. For example," and I'm still quoting, "for example, having a street name like Mupuranga, they felt it can reduce the value of the place just like a high-density area." And of course, because it was done democratically, people were asked to vote, the minority lost because the majority felt that they should do away with Shona and Ndebele names altogether. Now, as I said already, I don't really care the names that you give to your streets. I mean, I have an English name myself. So that is not the issue here. The issue here is the mentality, the thought process, or the thinking behind it, the argument itself. That is what I've got a problem with. For us Black people, Zimbabweans, African people, for us to say that our culture, our language, our identity, degrade us as Zimbabweans, as African people. For us to say that, for us to even say it out loud, for me, it shows that there is a serious problem. There is a serious problem. Because what is so degrading about having a Shona name? What is so wrong? What is so degrading about having a Ndebele name? What is so degrading about that? What is so degrading about your own culture? What is so degrading about your own language? What is degrading about that? What is demeaning? Why would you lose value simply because you've given the street you live in a Shona name or a Ndebele name? Where is that thinking coming from?
Oh ho, away, away, away. Oh ho, away, away. Renaming suburbs, using Shona or Ndebele street names, will not create jobs for millions of unemployed Zimbabweans. It will not bring food to hungry families, repair dilapidated roads, or provide medicine to struggling hospitals. This focus on symbolic gestures rather than tangible solutions reflects a ZANU-PF inspired mentality that prioritizes diversions over development. The irony of cultural advocacy. Bertha's stance on preserving African culture is further muddled by her personal presentation. In her videos, she sports blonde, European-style weaves, red lipstick, and what appears to be bleached skin, choices that contradict her criticism of Zimbabweans for allegedly abandoning their cultural roots. Oh ho, away, away, away. Oh ho, away, away. If she truly advocates for a return to cultural authenticity, why not embrace her natural afro hair and traditional attire? This contradiction underscores the lack of consistency in her arguments, leaving her open to accusations of hypocrisy. Mrs. Bertha, if you are truly an advocate of culture, you shouldn't be wearing synthetic weaves or Brazilian hair obtained from donors in India, China, or Brazil. At least try to look African, maybe your message will resonate with many. Notice how she is emotionally invested and preoccupied with this non-issue. If all ZANU-PF apologists could divert this energy towards developing Zimbabwe. 20 years in the UK and yet she learned nothing about socio-economic priorities. African politicians are well known for focusing on minor issues rather than real development. Oh ho, away, away, away. Oh ho, away, away. You can take a bushman out of the bush, but you can't take the bush out of the bushman. Bertha is angry and disappointed with English street names on a private estate. She forgets that this is not a government-owned property. If you want indigenous street names in Shona or Ndebele languages, then you should build your own ZANU-PF residential estate funded by the government from taxpayers' money, which rarely finds its way into public projects. It's baffling how someone who has lived in England for 20 years, still holds narrow-minded retrogressive views, which are intolerant of racial diversity. The British Conservative Party has a black Nigerian woman as their leader. There are about 48,000 immigrant African nurses working in the UK healthcare sector. There are lots of successful African businessmen and entrepreneurs in England. There are 1.4 million African immigrants in England, most of whom made it over there by risking their lives in the Mediterranean Sea, crossing over the Channel in overcrowded unseaworthy boats. And you are here making a big issue over English street names in Zimbabwe, even though the decision was based on a popular vote approved by the Harare City Council. If the majority prefer English street names, shouldn't you ask yourself why it's like that? Things have changed, this not the year 2000 whereby a few war veterans and ZANU-PF politicians will rig the results and force their will on the majority. You should also understand that this is the new generation and we live in a global village. No man is an island. If people think local indigenous names will degrade the value of their property, you should find out why rather than opposing the ideas. The market value of a property depends on many factors such as location, quality of building, age, the economy, and the environment. The names you choose for your suburb, streets, or location can also affect the perceived value of that property. You know very well that anything associated with Zimbabwe or local names has a negative connotation in the press or media. This is a fact that you cannot escape, which is why many of you Zimbabweans are using fake South African names and identities in South Africa and abroad. The reputation of the country has been tarnished whether you like it or not, due to economic collapse, endemic corruption, record hyperinflation, mass migration and general degradation in all sectors of the economy. Zimbabweans have lost their dignity in the process and they have become the laughing stock of the world. Who wants to be associated with such degradation? If Zimbabwe was doing well economically, outshining other African countries and emphasizing development, people would be proud to associate themselves with Zimbabwe, and they would use local street names with pride, but sadly that's not the case. If you want people to be proud of indigenous names and local culture, you must start by developing the country and catching up with the world. South Africa and Botswana are two examples of countries whereby people are proud of their local names and culture. It's not a case of empty pride and superficial appearances like Zimbabwe. Their governments are providing for their people in terms of development, healthcare, employment opportunities, social security, education and infrastructure. You can't be proud of your culture on an empty stomach, barely making ends meet, living on $150 a month, dealing with electricity blackouts and water shortages 24/7 hours a day, in an environment of 90% unemployment whereby the industry is dead. Revolutions have been taking place throughout history due to mass disgruntlement with local culture, ushering in new leaderships, regimes and cultures. The economy is a huge part and driver of culture. ZANU-PF culture has failed people, that's why many don't want to associate themselves with local names. We are talking about the Zimbabwe brand. Nobody loves the product because it's poor quality and washed out. You migrated to the UK because the UK works for you and millions of other Zimbabwean economic refugees. Try innovating and developing the country, maybe people, not just Zimbabweans but the global community will respect Zimbabwe. At the moment Zimbabwe is like a homeless street beggar in tattered clothes and unkempt hair, who hasn't bathed for ages. Unless Zimbabwe stands up, bathes and grooms himself and puts on clean attire, he won't be respected. He will always be seen as degrading and embarrassing. Honestly, there are more pressing issues than street names. Small-minded people like Bertha are always focused on minor issues which have no impact on the quality of life of ordinary Zimbabweans. Because this is the current state of Zimbabwe. Unemployment is 90%. Over 70% of companies and industries in Zimbabwe closed down due to economic collapse. Water shortages, people are digging wells and boreholes in the city. Dirty water supply contaminated with sewage. Zimbabwe is still struggling with hyperinflation, one of the most unstable currencies in the world. Daily electricity power cuts affecting households, business and factories. Dilapidated infrastructure and buildings in need of maintenance. Broken roads with potholes all over the towns and cities. Dysfunctional hospitals with a severe shortage of medicine, equipment and space. Destruction of social welfare, pension and medical aid schemes. High cost of schooling and education. There is no free education anymore. No subsidies for education and healthcare. Mass migration to South Africa, neighboring countries and overseas. Corruption in the government and private sector. Nurses, doctors, teachers, lawyers and engineers earning less than $200 a month.